And we're back with another State of Pro Wrestling. It's Gerald Glassford right here for the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate every one of you, each and every one of you out there watching and listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that magical 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, or like and subscribe and follow us today to get the latest notifications on when we go live with our latest Pop Culture Cosmos interviews, our Pop Culture Cosmos and PCC multiverse shows, and everything that we do right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Go ahead and do that. Plus, also, again, 5 stars wherever you get your podcast, because it really helps us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it is the State of Pro Wrestling for August 2023. And as I told my fellow host, I just guess, well, I'm going to say that again. As I told my fellow host, man, that's almost sounds like toast. As I told my fellow host, John Orlando from the PVDCast before we went on the air, this could be one of the biggest months ever for pro wrestling. And I didn't think I would say that not too long in the past, but here today to talk about all the good things that are going on in pro wrestling. Good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check them out today at thepvdcast.com. It is John Orlando. John, great to have you here, my friend. 4 years ago, when AEW started, I kind of dismissed them. I kind of thought it was going to be a company where it was going to be, you had a rich owner who was going to tire of spending the cash. And really, it's something that we've seen before in pro wrestling where you just have those deep pockets that only go so deep. And they thought that, well, okay, you know what? We're out of here after we just be way too much as far as the overhead is concerned. But flash forward 4 years later, AEW is on the verge of great success, their greatest success of all time, coming up here later this month in London at All In. 70,000 tickets are already sold. It could be a crowd well in excess of 80,000 at Wembley Stadium. You have also WWE SummerSlam coming up here this weekend. It's a great time to be a fan of pro wrestling. I don't have you, John. Your mic, for some reason, I don't have your mic. I just heard you off. We're not getting off to. No, it's just funny. You were clear as a bell before we went on the air. The internet gremlins are at us again. There we go. I heard something.
Oh, okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. All right.
Folks, this is what happens when you go live.
Yep, absolutely. So I'll say that again, my friend. We're on the verge of one of the greatest pro wrestling months in history. 2 stadium shows in excess of 120,000, 130,000 people when all is said and done. That's amazing for anyone out there that appreciates and follows pro wrestling.
I think that this month is going to be a stellar month for professional wrestling. I do have some concerns about both of those big events that we just talked about. AEW's big event at Wembley Stadium, and of course, SummerSlam this weekend. But hey, you know what? You never can tell what's going to happen. You can sit here and you can make predictions and give your opinion and your insights, but eventually you got to see the product, right in front of your eyes. You know what? Can we just talk real quick about maybe my main concern when it comes to AEW?
Of course. Let's go ahead. Let's go to our first with AEW. Again, their big show upcoming later this month at All In London. They now have 3 shows they have to go ahead and take care of, along with Ring of Honor. The plate is certainly full for AEW and All Elite Wrestling. Go ahead, my friend. What you got first?
My concern is there haven't been any matches, as far as I know, as of this past week. There hasn't been any matches announced, correct?
That's correct, yes. Which is amazing that they filled up 70,000 people just without a match announced alone.
Right, but while I think that this is maybe a concern that they don't need because they've already sold the tickets, I think it can backfire on you. You have to advertise something, and I feel like we're getting down now to 4 weeks out from this event, and you haven't mentioned anything. And I'm sure I'll pick a name just for name's sake. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that a lot of fans And probably a lot of those fans bought tickets, but a lot of those fans are going to say, oh, I can't wait to see Will Ospreay in his home country. Here we go. What if he doesn't get booked? What if for some odd reason, whatever that might be, he doesn't show up? Now you got a percentage of your fans who feel cheated or left out because they didn't see Will Ospreay, or they didn't see, well, obviously, they didn't see Ruby Soho. Maybe the Outcasts don't come over. Who knows? But I feel like to comfort and ease some fans' minds, you need to start mentioning what matches we're going to see.
I think you will see Will Ospreay. He's already been, talking about it in interviews. He's already talking about, heading there. I really think that if he didn't have a guarantee from Tony Khan, the head of AEW, All Elite Wrestling, I really think that it would be a question. But he's already been announcing it for quite a stretch that he is intending to be there. So I don't think there should be a doubt about that, my friend. Because I think it would be remiss for them, like you said, just for PR stance alone, for them not to go ahead and have Britain's most popular wrestler on the card.
I know, but again, I feel like they need to start. How are you going to build stuff if you're waiting until 4 weeks out?
Well, they wanted to go ahead along. That's the problem, though, with these storylines that take you from one pay-per-view to the next pay-per-view to the next major show to the next major show. You're building up to the next one and trying to go ahead and see at that time for the slow build. And we've seen so far some of the storylines in AEW. Let's take example the rise of Ricky Starks, for instance, one of the first topics we want to talk about. Is Ricky Starks at the level where he needs to be heading to the biggest show all time for AEW? He's been brought on with this extra show on Saturday nights right there for the TNT TBS audience in Collision. He's been brought up alongside CM Punk, got a win on CM Punk, and then actually they're going to go ahead and face off one more time in the not too distant future for the championship belt that CM Punk never lost. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend. Ricky Starks is being positioned as a major individual in this company, which is something AEW has tried to do. They've tried to push their pillars, even though all of them try to now avoid that word in their interviews with MJF, Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and now Ricky Starks, among others. You're talking about individuals that they've tried to catapult into stardom to be at the level of the CM Punks of the world, and all the other individuals, the John Moxleys, all the other name brands that they have on that roster. So where do you see them going ahead with this as far as AEW All In?
I have told you many times off air and sometimes even on this show that I'm a fan of Ricky Starks. I think that he has a lot of potential. We talked off air before we started this live broadcast. What is Ricky Starks? Is he a heel? Is he a face? He's kind of indeterminate. Yes. He's been heel face back and forth for his entire career in AEW. I see him as a very strong secondary contender right now. When I mean secondary title contender, I don't see him wearing the world championship anytime soon. I think he has the potential to. Once he gets his character kind of all the way ironed out, I still feel like maybe he's not 100% comfortable with the character just yet, but I think he's fantastic. I don't like how this whole CM Punk Ricky Starks thing was booked. Why aren't we trying to unify the two, quote, world titles? Why was that not a priority when Punk came back? I know they've had the plans with Adam Cole and MJF being a team, but I feel like if I was running the show, a minute that we got everything squared away with Punk, we got to unify those two belts like we've always done in the past. And you and I disagree. I like the idea of interim champions when an injury happens. You do not, and I can understand that. But dealing with it like this puts me on your side, Gerald, that I don't like this idea of interim champs.
Yeah, to me, it's not a way unless you have a certain goal, because the reason why the interim champ was made in the first place was under auspices, very, very suspicious circumstances, to say the least, in regards to everything that happened there. I do think, though, that once again, when it comes to where AEW is headed, you're right. They should start making the card out for it sooner rather than later. they have to start filling out the rest of that card to justify the 70,000 plus that are already going to attend at London's Wembley Stadium. I think it's something that they have to go ahead and look at. But the other main storyline, along with the rise of Ricky Starks for All Elite Wrestling, has been the continuous storyline for Adam Cole and MJF, who recently failed in their bid as a, a team that was brought together that have become on screen, on camera, the best of friends. And it looks like that they're both still headed for a major match, a feud, some type of breakup at some point in time. Was teased to be happened when they lost the chance to go ahead and win the tag titles here on a recent edition, when surprisingly MJF took the fall. Your thoughts though on this better than you baby pairing between MJF and Adam Cole?
Okay, it's not an original storyline. We've seen it in the past. We've seen it with Mankind and Steve Austin and Austin and Michaels and X-Pac and Kane. We've seen it a million times. But I will say that I feel like it's been one of the most entertaining things on AEW TV recently, because you had two very opposite individuals, and MJF kind of being the whiny, sniveling little heel, but yet still trying to babyface it up. I liked it. It's been very, very well done. It's given something to do with even Roderick Strong, so he's got something to kind of do with the storyline.
Well, let me ask you this: could it be also
sure.
a situation where they're lacking in credible challengers to MJF, so they're trying to drag this thing out with Adam Cole to try and elevate him to the status where people believe he is a credible challenger, because you don't have as much behind him that MJF already hasn't beaten?
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's to build Adam Cole so that those two can turn on each other, as every one of these tag teams do. We know it's inevitably going to happen, but I think that they're doing that definitely in lieu of what I just complained about. Your automatic storyline should have been unifying two world titles, but I digress. Yeah, obviously, I think they are primed and getting Adam Cole ready to be the next contender for MJF. I don't know how I would feel about that matchup. I think it would be an interesting matchup. I feel at times I don't like the psychology of Adam Cole, but that's neither here nor there. So I hope that when they start this feud and when they start this series of matches, that we get a really solid, psychologically sound matchup between the two of these. And I think that we would, especially with MJF. I think he's clued into the psychology of big matches.
That's funny because, again, you're seeing more of a subdued MJF with this pairing right there. The gag that they wanted to go ahead and finish off every match with a double clothesline was absolutely hilarious as far as that's concerned, because if you've long watched the pro wrestling industry, the double clothesline has always been a major source of failure and a major source of if they're the other individual that they're trying to clothesline, for them to go ahead and break it up in a way to gain the advantage, so to speak. So the double clothesline spot in every match has seemingly been a source of an inside joke to the entire industry, as it were. But MJF has sort of been playing subdued, which, again, I was kind of worried at first, because does it take some pressure, heat off him and the tremendous amount he has given to this organization as a drawing champion? But I see that with the way that the storyline is working out, they've made it interesting. They've made it interesting to the point where I now want to watch to see what happens next.
I agree. That was, as I mentioned to you as well off air, this was the first episode of Collision I watched. I haven't, because on Saturday nights there's always something going on, and so this Saturday night I sat down and watched it, and the reason being is I wanted to see FTR against MJF and Cole. I wanted to see that match because I like 3 out of those 4. I'm mediocre on my love of Adam Cole, but the other 3 I dig. And so, you're talking about drawing. There you go. I was invested. I wanted to see if MJF and Cole would break up.
Absolutely. That would have been too soon in my book. So I
Agreed.
agree. I agree with you that the stadium show should be a unification match between CM Punk or Ricky Starks, and MJF or Adam Cole. I think it should lead to the unification of that title. And it should be something at the culmination of which that would be great to have that as far as a lasting image. Sure, you can have the Adam Cole MJF title match, which will probably looks like it's going to happen for the Better Than You Baby type of match. But I really think that the title unification match between the CM Punk Championship and the MJF Championship, that would be the ultimate. I agree with you on that as far as solidifying it into one championship unified, which I'm a very much of a stickler on that they should have in pro wrestling.
Yeah, and what a bigger draw. I mean, CM Punk is known all around the world, so he's coming to Wembley Stadium. He's going to be taking on the other champion, the guy that's been there, that has held down the fort even in the absence of Punk, and he's the loudmouth, and he's this and that. I mean, that right there is buy rate city.
Mhm.
If you have those two and you hype it up correctly and you book it correctly, I mean, that right there is you're just printing money at that point.
So I ask you, my friend, we have not talked about AEW here as a contender to the throne, as someone as an entity that has garnered to a point. They rose, they grew, and then they stopped as far as their level of attendance of people watching on a weekly basis. They were able to go ahead and successfully add a Saturday show. I think at the cost of the Friday show. I think eventually
Mhm.
that Friday show Rampage is doomed because of what they're doing on Saturday, but that's neither here nor there. And then whatever they're doing with Ring of Honor, it's just beyond me. But okay, whatever. But I ask you, my friend, outside of being able, because I know there's rumors of a digital service that they're going to bring up, and of course they're going to fill it all up with ROH hours and whatnot. But my question to you is, this is the biggest event in the history of All Elite Wrestling. It's no longer one of the shows here in Vegas at Double or Nothing. It's no longer anywhere else at any other venue that they have. They've, packed houses of 15, 17, 20,000. They've been able to go ahead and do. This is beyond anything that they've ever done by a long shot. This has to be the biggest imprint in their history for them long term as an entity. Do you see them taking advantage of it? I see the great car. Great work rate and a great wrestling card is not immune to AEW. That should not. That should be almost a given because we see that on a regular basis in AEW, even on their television shows. But when it comes to the imprint that they leave on people, do you think this will be a catapult to them competing on an a more even basis than WWE?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I think that it depends on the momentum that they create with the event and then the follow up, meaning they're going to do press, obviously, at least I hope they are. They're going to do press prior to the event, then the event, and then they usually have their media scrum. But I think they have to capitalize on the back end of that, meaning that there's even more wrestlers joining a morning TV show or on the radio or interviews in the newspapers or whatnot. I think you have to have a follow-up for them. I think the WWE gets away with not having a follow-up because they're the WWE. But if you're trying to, again, as we've said many times, if you're trying to build a fan base and move that bar up, you have to do these other things. You have to be more interactive. So I say if they can create the momentum with the press before the event, then they have the event at Wembley Stadium, and then they do some follow-up press, guest appearances. That I think is going to help build that base in Europe, I think. Again, I mean that
But you
no
don't see
guarantees.
you don't see them parlaying this to like a new awakening amongst fans all over the world, especially here in the U.S., where you will start to see them doing 1.4 million, 1.5 million, and just getting even closer, infringing more on that audience of the WWE.
I don't see that. If they follow up with another big stadium show, okay. I want to see consistency And I don't think that this is going to catapult them to almost to nipping at the heels, so to speak, of the WWE. I think if they do what I mentioned and they build that fan base, they're going to increase, but they're not going to be. I mean, who could nip at the heels of the WWE, Gerald? That's the question. I don't
There
even
was
know.
one company that did for 83 weeks, as I've been reminded by Eric Bischoff on many
True,
occasions.
true, but I'm just saying that currently, in the last 20 years, has there been anyone that could really anyone? I mean, barring the NFL or UFC or one of the other sports leagues, I don't know if there's anyone. I don't know if that's a fair comparison to say, well, they're going to use Wembley Stadium to catapult them to being behind the WWE, but they're going to be a little bit closer to the WWE. I don't know. That's a very difficult question to answer.
Because it just comes to the point where when somebody talks about pro wrestling, all they have is the WWE on their mind
Mm-hmm.
or the WWF. They never
Mm-hmm.
have AEW. And that, I mean, a lot of people are talking about it now in overseas, but when it comes to what happens all at the end, if it's treated as a news story, you could just count. You could take a shot every time someone will mistakenly say WWE instead of AEW. And so that's what I'm asking: is will this be the catapult for even a bigger series of successes for AEW going forward? And that's something that's going to be interesting. We'll see. I mean, will this be their WrestleMania from MSG? Will it be the catapult for them as an organization? So I don't know. I'm not counting on it because I have a feeling the next week we'll just see the same 1 million people turn in, and that's nothing to
Mm-hmm.
sneeze at. That's still pretty good. They get some good ratings. But again, in their pursuit of becoming the number one entity across the world, in the state of wrestling, it's be something that again we'll have to see what happens there. But my friend, it's been great having you on so far. Once again, it is John Orlando for the PVD Cast. He is here for our State of Pro Wrestling for August 2023, and it wouldn't be a State of Pro Wrestling in August 2023 without talking about WWE SummerSlam coming this weekend. Speaking of another stadium show, it's a
Mm-hmm.
smaller stadium show. It's going to be about 45 to 50,000 people, in not the big, huge numbers of Wembley Stadium. But I'm not saying that doesn't mean that the WWE can't compare with AEW, because I bet if WWE promoted a show in Wembley Stadium right now, they would get 80,000 people to show up. That's how much I'm convinced on their success at the point of time, because their ratings are still doing pretty good comparatively speaking. So I ask you, my friend, heading into WWE SummerSlam, the first thing I want to ask you was a long gestating feud between Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch that was supposed to culminate for many months in a final match for Trish Stratus for a while, or maybe a retirement match. Who knows? Um, for her at SummerSlam has now been pulled off, which I know from what the rumors are backstage. I know if I was Becky Lynch or Trish Stratus, I would be absolutely ticked. Before I run down the card, my friend, and talk about other things in the WWE, your thoughts on that match being pulled?
Well, I don't know. It's interesting decision. It's an interesting decision.
Mhm.
Um, I and one that I can't justify one way or the other, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm looking at the card as of this morning that I printed off. You have some room. I mean, you only have 8 matches. One of them is a battle royal, which that's the big question mark for me. Why are we getting a battle royal on SummerSlam?
Do
That's
they still go off of pay per view cuts, that type of deal? Do they still go off of that, and they would like to put everybody on it? Is that why? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Because remember, that's within back in the day,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
used to be the deal, that everybody wanted to be on a major event so that they could get their cut. But in the age of more guaranteed money given out to these wrestlers with downside guarantees and all that, it's not as necessary now for them to be on a specific card, even if it's from a larger venue. So that's all I'm asking in regards to that. Like for instance, LA Knight will probably get, even if he wasn't going to be on the card, which he is because he's going to be in the battle royale, he would still probably earn a nice living because he's so hot in merchandising that he would still get a nice cut from that weekend, whether or not he's there. But, again, we'll talk about LA Knight at the very
Yeah,
end because
yeah.
there's a lot to discuss with LA Knight. But in WWE SummerSlam, I thought that was a little bit, you lead it, you have a long gestating
Hmm.
storyline. And it doesn't lead up to SummerSlam. I think that has to be disappointing for both Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, unless you make it something special for them, like put those two in some type of stipulation match that's going to be at a marquee main event level on one of the marquee shows like Raw. Just go ahead and main event that. But that's still, to me, that's kind of disappointing the way that those two were taken off there. But let me give you the card right now as it stands, which it looks like it's going to be the case. It is going to be, like you said, the SummerSlam Battle Royale. MMA rules, Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler. I would have actually taken this one off in lieu of that one personally, because I think that there was more storyline built up for the Becky Lynch match, as far as that's concerned, Trish Stratus, Becky Lynch match, instead of this one. Logan Paul versus Ricochet. Now, I understand why that's going on this venue because of Logan Paul, but come on. You're selling out the stadium without Logan Paul. It wasn't necessarily needed. Triple threat match for WWE Women's Championship: Asuka versus Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. The Intercontinental title match with Gunther defending against Drew McIntyre. The World Heavyweight Championship, which is not the World Heavyweight Championship in my eyes. Seth Rollins defends against Finn Balor, because the only reason why they're defending it is because Roman Reigns only defends it once every quarter. Cody Rhodes again versus Brock Lesnar. Yes, I know he defended in Mexico City recently, so that's tone down, tone down. Tribal combat match for the WWE Universal Championship: Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. Now, this bloodline feud has really kept it going as far as the ratings.
Hmm.
People are still interested. I'm
Hmm.
not. I'm no longer interested in it because I'm now seeing the matches that we saw at the front end of this feud. Or remember when they were feuding
Hmm.
before, and Jey Uso was feuding before they all got together to create the bloodline and head the table and all that stuff. So I'm now seeing the matches on the back end that I saw on the front end. But that's okay. It's getting the people interested. It's a storyline that clicks. Your thoughts on the main event, Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns?
Well, it's interesting because I've read that Roman has not been advertised for future PLEs. I think what is Fastlane next, or
Yeah, exactly.
Backlash, or whatever. It's one of those throwaway PLEs.
Yeah.
But he's not being advertised for the next few. And I'm sure that a lot of people are like, oh, that means they're gonna put the title on Jay. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Why do you think they created that world title in the first place for
Right.
Seth Rollins?
Exactly. He's not. People, if you're thinking that, you're foolish. I'm just gonna say that. Roman Reigns is going to win. He's going to disappear, go do his side project, comes back. I could see them doing some type of an injury angle. He wins the match, but oh my goodness, the damage to his knee or the damage to his shoulder or elbow, or he's got to take time off, and that would make Jay look like a world beater, so to speak, that he injured Roman Reigns, but Jay's not getting the title. Or you did forget also, he's not going to get the recognition of tribal chief. So,
Yes.
because that's
That's
apparently a thing.
that is a thing, according to fans out there. So I don't want to underestimate it. It is very,
Okay.
I mean, the storyline's very popular. The
Right.
bloodline
Yeah.
is still getting people in every week. That
Mm-hmm.
storyline. So I'm not going to go ahead and, as much as I'm not no longer a fan of it after the breakup of what went on, I've just said, okay, I'm done with it. But a lot of people are not done with it. And I have to respect that because, again, if it's a storyline that continues clicking, more power to them on that. Rhea Ripley isn't even on the card, so I know that Becky Lynch is talking about, probably upset about what went on. Rhea Ripley isn't
Mm-hmm.
even on the card with her world championship to defend on the card, which is kind of strange indeed because she is one of the most, I guess trending superstars right there for you. It's the fact that she's probably the best part of Judgment Day at this point in time because Damian Priest, and despite the fact he won Money in the Bank, absolutely does nothing for me. And I really don't think that he's going to be an individual that you can put a lot of money on. But I'm hopefully I'm wrong on that. But your thoughts though on the rest of the card, my friend? Obviously the triple threat match with Asuka defending against Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair. I'm a huge Asuka fan. But when it comes to Asuka this time around, I'm glad to see that she's been able to maintain a title run without having to lose 50 non-title matches in between. I'm glad the fact that she's been able to maintain it. The question is, I think she retains, but the question is, will Io Sky go ahead and cash in as she's promised to do, or will it get broken up to start a feud between her and, of course, the breakup of Damage Control with Bailey?
I'm still waiting eagerly for an Io Sky versus Asuka match.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that.
That would be unbelievable. Like those two going at it,
but they can't do that because she has the case on her right now.
Correct. Yes. So that is the problem with that particular scenario. So maybe a feud with Bailey would be fine. I don't know
the Money in the Bank, but I think that's where it's leading to me in my estimation.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't be heartbroken if Io Sky cashed in, beat Asuka, then Asuka chases her for the belt. I think that would be an amazing way to kind of set that up. Is Dakota Kai anyways near set to come back?
Or she's still anything.
I think she's still out. Yeah. Because I was gonna say that could be something that they could kind of work in. I think they're going to keep the belt on Asuka. I have a feeling that Charlotte and Bianca are probably going to have some type of tiff in the match, and then that's going to maybe lead to one of them. Yeah, and then a feud between those two.
And that's, to me, it's good because that's, again, you have layered. SmackDown women's side is so much more stacked with quality drawing ladies that can go ahead and gain interest from an audience than the Raw side. So it's good to see that they can build layers there. Raw only has, I can count on less than one hand the number of individuals there as far as on the women's roster on that side that can really continue on the ratings and continue on the interest for fans. That's why Rhea Ripley can stay dominant for a while, like Roman Reigns, because outside of Becky Lynch and what's going on Trish Stratus, but Trish Stratus probably will be going back into retirement, and then you have not much to speak of after that. So I understand what's going on with Rhea Ripley there. And then you have also as well with the MMA match, which I think, again, I don't know why this needs to be on there. I understand that they have a feud. Ronda Rousey's on her way out, and she wants one last big moment against Shayna Baszler. So I think she's going to do the favors for Shayna Baszler in the MMA match. Your thoughts on this match real quickly?
I really enjoyed their promos last night. Those video packages last night were really well done.
That's some of their best for both ladies.
Yes, 100%. Like, I sat there, Joe, and go, where has this passion, this energy, where has this been the entire time?
Good friends. That's why.
That's why. But I think that this match, if they let them go and work a little bit tighter, I think that this could be an amazing match. However, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think anybody's going to green light them working snug. So it's just going to be a throwaway match that, now that you mentioned it, could have been an amazing match to main event Raw or to do to the next PLE, rather than putting it here and put that Becky Lynch Trish Stratus match in its place.
Again, it's just there's something where we will probably see Ronda Rousey on her way out because of her dissatisfaction, I guess, with the company as a whole. So we're going to see her probably out at the hands of Shayna Baszler, her good friend in real life, and so we'll see what happens there. But rounding out the rest of the card, again, you have for the World Heavyweight Championship, which to me is not a World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins against Finn Balor. Do you see a breakup of the Judgment Day? Because Damian Priest currently has the men's Money in the Bank. So do you see him trying to cash in at all? Do you see him taking advantage? Do you see him gaining the title out of this in regards to what's going to go on at SummerSlam?
I don't think that they want to break up the Judgment Day just yet, because I think that they are maybe not as equally hot as the Bloodline.
But they're close.
But they're very close. I don't think you break up the Judgment Day just yet.
Damian Priest just doesn't do it for me, man. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that out loud.
You know what? That's okay, because for years and years and years when he was in Ring of Honor, he did nothing for me. I think he's gotten really good over the last 2 years.
Good worker. Good work.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the character's improved too. I like the character as it is right now. But I think he holds on to that Money in the Bank match or Money in the Bank briefcase, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the ones that cash in and then don't win.
That could be a surprise as well. Although, again, in the hindsight in giving him over LA Knight is just beyond me. The logistics in that, I can't understand that still to this day, how that happened, because I understand the Judgment Day is very strong. And I know they needed something for the Raw side, but just to not have LA Knight not win and not win and not win is something we'll touch on before we head on before we head on out. But you do also have Gunther defending against Drew McIntyre. Do we really think Drew McIntyre has a chance against Gunther? He couldn't do it in a 3-way at WrestleMania. Why have him do it here?
I am so bored with this idea. I when they announced it, I'm like, oh, really? We're gonna get this again. Look, I have nothing against Drew McIntyre. He's okay. I'm not a big fan, but I don't hate him. He's okay. But I'm just tired of him taking on, Gunther. We've already seen it. Put Gunther in there. I think that Gunther's match with Chad Gable last night was pretty darn entertaining.
Yeah.
Why not redo that at SummerSlam? And I don't know. I'm not.
The problem is, though, when you kept someone so low for such a long period of time, it's very hard to pull them out. Although we will talk about that at the end of the show with somebody who has pulled himself out despite the roadblocks put against him. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar is supposed to be one of the big matches on the card. Cody Rhodes coming off his autobiography, the movie, The American Nightmare, that came out recently. That was major press for it. He's doing a lot of promos for it at this point in time. Obviously, he still has the big match coming up against Brock Lesnar, the rubber match between those two. Most likely, since that Montana ranch is calling for Brock Lesnar, that means that Cody Rhodes will probably pick up the win since he's there on a regular basis. Your thoughts? Does this do anything for Cody Rhodes if he beats Brock Lesnar on Sunday?
Well, I did like the video recaps last night on Raw. I'd like to give props right there first. You know what? At first, I really did not like this matchup, this feud, this storyline. But it's grown on me, Gerald, because at least it's what we saw in the 80s. Hogan's the champion. We need to bring in a big monster. Let's bring in Big John Studd or Earthquake, or you know what I mean? So they're doing the same thing. Let's bring in the big monster for Cody to slay. So I think partly because Cody's had really great promos during this storyline. I think that's helped turn me to, actually caring about this match. I think the fact that Cody has shown in every altercation he doesn't have an answer for Brock Lesnar, I think that is intriguing and has turned my opinion around about this particular matchup. I'm curious to see, how is Cody going to win? Obviously, as you mentioned, Cody's winning. I don't think there's any second guessing on that because Brock's...
What does it do for Brock? Nothing, because he's gone for months anyways.
Yeah, so I think that I think they've done a very good job. Everybody involved, they've done a great job of making me care, because at the beginning, during the tag match, and he turned on him, and that week after, I'm like, I don't care about this. This is dumb. But they've done a great job of turning my opinion around. So I'm looking forward to the match, to be honest.
Logan Paul versus Ricochet. Ricochet is still one of my favorite wrestlers in WWE, but he's in a no-win situation against a guy who they're paying a lot of money to go ahead and just show up on the card because he has a huge YouTube following. Your thoughts on Logan Paul versus Ricochet? Do you really have any? I understand that they're going to do a couple very athletic spots that's going to trend on social media and all that, but he said, as he said, he wants to be first or second on the card because his brother fights later in the night. So his mind will be elsewhere. Could that distract him from having a good match?
That could. I didn't even know his brother was fighting that same night.
Yeah, his brother's fighting. Yeah.
Okay.
He's getting on a private plane. You already talked about going. Yeah, all that. Yeah, the life of a millionaire. There you go.
Yeah, well, it must be nice.
Must be nice.
I don't know. I think that this match is going to have a lot of highlights, a lot of flipping, flying, crazy maneuvers. I wouldn't be surprised if an announce table gets flattened right out of the gates. I think it's going to be more of a spectacle than a classic wrestling match, but we'll see.
We'll see indeed. But once again, it is John Orlando from the PVD Cast. But before he tells you why you need to go ahead and check out the PVD Cast, the guy who I think should win the SummerSlam Battle Royale in order to appease the 50,000 people that are there chanting L.A. Knight, yeah, and cheering him and buying all of his merchandise and all that, is LA Knight, who will be part of the SummerSlam Battle Royale as a way to shoehorn him in there along with several others, which I think, again, why LA Knight is at the top of this card is still beyond me. Because as someone who has observed and watched pro wrestling for decades now, since the 70s, I think that to me, this is an opportunity that you don't get too often. And you've had it twice this year with Sami Zayn, and you decided not to pull the trigger on that, and you blew it, and now he's just another guy. You have the situation where LA Knight is going over huge, my friend. And despite all the people that are on their lawn, all these older wrestlers that are on their lawn saying, oh, he's so much like The Rock and Steve Austin, blah, 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 blah. I don't get it. It's funny because, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, older wrestlers were saying the same things about them when they were hitting it big. But need I digress for a second here? It's ironic how it always spins around, isn't it, my friend?
Yes, it is. It is very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say this: when it comes to LA Knight, is he like? Is he doing a Stone Cold ripoff? Is he doing a Rock ripoff? Is he doing a combination of each? He's talked about the influence that they've had in his life. So to quote The Rock himself, it doesn't matter what you think, what we think. The fact is the WWE universe thinks he's awesome and loves everything that this man is doing right now. This man has actually if you watched what he's done, as I told you on last month, I was watching a lot of old Eli Drake, his old persona type stuff throughout NWA, throughout TNA, Impact, all that stuff. NWA, and I saw that character developing into what we have today. A lot of the mannerisms and things that he was saying before, he's just built up into one big collection that he's grabbing from today. This is 20 years of his work all put together finally to build a nice chicken salad after it was all over the place before. It is now coming to success despite WWE's transgressions, despite rumors that they thought he was too old, which is hilarious to me because some of their champions, Asuka and some others, Edge, there are others in their late 30s and 40s anyways. Roman Reigns, they're all in their late 30s and early 40s anyways. So why should it bother you that they want to push him in his, early 40s? It's just still beyond me. So I ask you, my friend, someone that they need to push because there is no star that has been as huge and gotten over as huge as he has in a long time, maybe even the height of Cena. What are your thoughts on how they should go ahead forward? Do you think they'll blow it when it comes to LA Knight? LA Knight. Yeah.
I would like to just point out that as you started with your diatribe there, I do find it funny that the old guys are making fun because,
don't you think so? I mean, it's just like,
it is because superstar Billy Graham, Hogan took from him. Ventura took from him.
But they all took from Buddy Rogers. They
right
from Buddy Rogers, and Buddy Rogers probably took from somebody. Yeah,
it's that's the nature of this business. You see something that works and you take it and you tweak it. So
it's like Clint Eastwood getting out on the lawn at Gran Torino, barking at somebody because of they don't like it anymore. They did the same thing themselves.
Exactly. And you know what? There's another great example. How many actors, their early roles of playing a character are terrible, but they finally find what works for that character. I mean, I digress on that note. I said it this way in my notes. I put down, are they going to mess this up? I said yes. Now, I think the chances of them messing this up are better. Last month, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, Gerald, I would have said there is a 20% chance that LA Knight is going to be a superstar because the WWE is going to screw this up, right? There's a 20% chance he's going to rise to the top. I say now there's a 50-50 shot, which I know people are listening or watching and going, That's
Do
a
you think it could
terrible.
drag out to? Well, do you think? I think it's great. I think it's
Yeah.
great that you have the most popular star that would be at the head of China. I think he should be Roman Reigns. I think he should be Seth Rollins. I think he should have the world title. That's what you need to do is put the most popular star, the biggest face forward while he's hot. Sell and bring in the most money you can at the most opportune time. It serves you no purpose that he is going to continue to do this in the mid card fashion. It's nice now, but if you continue to put him in the mid card, he is not going to go ahead and continue to give you that kind of residual income. You have to make sure, okay, maybe they're doing the slow build to WrestleMania. That's my next question. If they are doing the slow build to WrestleMania, do you see that ultimately happening where they pay it off correctly with a huge victory at WrestleMania for LA Knight? Yeah.
Similar to the boyhood dream comes true. I mean, that would be a great storyline. That would be awesome. That if they continue to build Survivor Series coming up, soon, there's an opportunity where he could have a big victory. All right, maybe not as big as a WrestleMania moment, but that could propel him in. You also have Royal Rumble where how awesome would it be if he won the Royal Rumble? Even if he doesn't have any other success, or major success.
I would put him in the Royal Rumble. I would have him win it, and then I
Yeah.
would have him win the world title. I would not have him win any side titles because he's talked about how he wants to win titles and any titles, U.S. title, Intercontinental titles. No, I would have him focus. I would have somebody come on air and tell him to refocus his attempts because he could be the megastar. In order to be the megastar, you need to get the mega prize.
Yeah, agreed. And you know what? That would be a great backstage vignette. And we don't have too many backstage vignettes that are great, by the way. But anyways, that would be a great one if you had one of the legends. Hey, kid, let me tell you something, LA Knight. And that would, number one, it would give validity. Like people sitting at home would go, oh, I don't know. I'll pick a random legend. Oh, that was Shawn Michaels telling him that he could win the title. Well, Shawn Michaels would know because of, the boyhood dream come true. Like that would make perfect sense. That would stoke interest. I mean, like I said, I feel there's a 50-50 shot that they screw this up, which was better than a few months ago. But I mean, come on, when you're number one, what is it? 1, 3, 4, and 5 in merchandise. I mean, come on, you're making buku bucks. And by the way, let's just
I
say
had a desire to buy a shirt for the WWE shirt for the first time in decades since I bought the Roddy Piper Hot Rod shirt. So that'll tell you out there how much I'm into the character myself.
Well, and I was going to say some of those designs are not great. Let's just there's a couple that I'm like, ooh,
who's holding me back a little bit. So
yeah, some of the designs are a little bit, I don't know, they're a little bit out there. I would not be wearing them, but nonetheless. I keep wanting to believe that they're not going to screw this up. I hope that they don't. I feel like he deserves it. I mean, I know that's
he's paid his dues. Nobody can't say he hasn't paid his dues.
No, and he's solid in the ring.
Yeah. But the idea behind that, whoever thought, if there is true that WWE thought he was too old, is absolutely ludicrous. Again, I mentioned Asuka. You're talking about Charlotte Flair's in her mid-30s. You're talking about Roman Reigns is in his mid-30s. Edge, you have still at a prominent spot, and he's closer to 50. So don't tell me all these wrestlers that are out there, with most of them in their what did Ric Flair say a long time ago about a wrestler at his peak? A wrestler is at his peak in his mid-30s to his early 40s. That's when he's learned the craft long enough to go ahead and still be enough at a physical peak, at an athletic peak, to go ahead and have your best matches right there.
And he's not the only one that has said that. I remember Steve Austin stating it took him 7 years to finally get it.
Yeah.
And that's puts him in his late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fingers crossed that they don't mess this up. And
they blew it with Sami Zayn. They absolutely blew it with Sami Zayn. I still thought they should have done a short title run with him, and they didn't. I think that would have been huge for Canada and the merchandising and the just the feedback in Canada and positive goodwill amongst also as well the locker room. You also should have appeased the locker room, because I have a feeling a win by Sami Zayn would have gone over really, really well in that locker room. Well, if that's the case, Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, think about the psychology of that. Think about if you're somebody that is maybe a Chad Gable, who's maybe he's having some self-doubt. Wait, they put the title on Sami Zayn. Think about how psychologically that could help young guys who are in that locker room who want to reach a level of excellence. And they're like, I don't know, because I'm not Reigns, I'm not Cena, I'm not this person, that person. Well, wait a minute. They put the belt on Sami. Maybe there is a chance for me. You don't
think that they're seeing it with LA Knight now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, hands down.
This guy was losing left and right in NXT. And you look at him now. Look at him now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was losing earlier this year. He lost to Bray Wyatt, and he was losing to other. Cody Rhodes. Yeah, he was losing left and right.
I forgot about the Mountain Dew. What was it? The Mountain Pitch Black Dark match or whatever the heck it was called. That was awful.
Yeah. So we're hoping, keeping our fingers crossed. If they play the long game, then I'm going to credit them. I will give them credit for everything if they go ahead and play the long game, and this works out as a WrestleMania, which would be great if they could do that. If he sustains his momentum with the fans, that's the thing. That's going to be the hard part. Can they sustain his momentum with the fans? We'll wait and see, my friend. But before we head on out, my friend, you have to give everyone an update of what's going on with, of course, your awesome show, the PVD Cast.
Well, the PVD Cast, which is my own personal podcasting project, it's available at pvdcast.com or wherever you find great podcasts, whether it's through Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. This week's episode is a gentleman by the name of Julio Guerra. He is an independent comic book creator. He's created a really cool comic called Death Bag about a kind of a Beavis and Butthead meets the Grim Reaper meets your normal slacker. It's a very good comic. He also has a great comic called Botched. It's a pro wrestling comic, and he's a huge pro wrestling fan. So we talk about not only his projects, but also his publishing imprint, Gorilla Press, and of course, Botched, wrestling, comics. It's a cornucopia of topics, shall we say. So definitely please check that out, pvdcast.com, or again, through your favorite podcasting place.
Awesome show indeed. I've been on it, and I know he has always some great guests. Always an interesting time at the PVD Cast. Well, my friend, you knocked it out of the park again. We kind of stumbled, both of us, on the way to first base, but we rounded the bases pretty good, to use that baseball vernacular, since it's the only sport going on really right now. But pro wrestling is going to be in one of its biggest months this month, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens when it all, the dust settles and whatnot. We'll pick up the pieces in our State of Pro Wrestling for September, because we'll have all the answers by then. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it indeed, my friend. I'm looking forward to it indeed.
Hey, we always have all the answers. That's what they don't recognize.
Yes. We always have the right answers. Yes, absolutely. They don't recognize it. They don't follow it. As the advice is there, they just don't take it. Gosh. Once again, it's John Orlando from the PVD Cast. Please check them out, pvdcast.com. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. We'll be back at the end of this month or early next month, right around the 1st of September. Go ahead and talking about the State of Pro Wrestling. It's the State of Pro Wrestling for August 2023. If you have thoughts, questions, remarks, you can always hit us up, Pop Culture Cosmos, on social media, and right down below on YouTube, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.